Hi, I'm Bert Pelletier. I'm going to be your instructor for this novice dog obedience training video. Now, it's very important for you to watch very carefully because there's a lot of body English and footwork involved here. So don't hesitate to rewind the tape so that you can study something a little bit more carefully. Now, no matter what your reasons may be for training your dog, whether you want a better behaved pet around the home or whether you want to go into obedience competition, this instruction will definitely accomplish that for you. Now, there's only one method of dog training that works today, so we're not going to discuss others. And that's simply a method of praise and correction. When the dog does it correctly, we'll praise the dog. When the dog does it wrong, we'll make the correction or the adjustment. Once that's made, we'll again praise the dog. Now, you're not going to break your dog's spirit by correcting your dog, as some people would have you believe. Your dog will actually be the first one to thank you, that is, if he could speak, for his training. Just think about it from his point of view for a moment. He's always in trouble now because he does this or he doesn't do that. Once he's trained, the dog will actually have a better, higher quality, more improved way of life. And again, he would thank you for it if he could. Now, it's very important for you to take on a positive attitude. That attitude is simply that the dog is all done having his way, and you're now going to have your way. Now, there's no length of time per lessons here. I'm not going to say it's going to take X amount of days, hours, or weeks to accomplish whatever. But what is important is that you accomplish one lesson before going on to the other. And also, it's very helpful to practice your previous lesson just before you start your new lesson. Now, you're going to be wanting to wear some comfortable clothing, something that you can move well in. Give high priority to your footwear. A good, solid, comfortable shoe, something that's not going to slip or fall off your foot. Now, the equipment that you're going to need to train your dog, number one, is a chain training collar. Once the dog is trained, it won't matter. But this collar is very important. We'll use it for cues. Go out of your way to procure the best training equipment that you can find. I do prefer a German steel collar. Usually they'll tell you where they're made on the big ring. And you want the best one that you can find. Now, this is a training collar, and for now it should only go on your dog during training and immediately come off the dog's neck after training. He's in school during training, he's out of school after. We'll take advantage of a very peculiar phenomenon here. Eventually, when you put this collar on the dog, he's going to know that he's working. To put it together is very simple. You grab it by the ring, drop it down through the other ring. Eventually, the dog will always be at your left side. Slip it over, and you see that you have correction and release. If it's on wrong, you're going to have a situation of correction and no release. The next piece of equipment that you need is your 6-foot leather leash. Again, the quality is very important. Get the best one that you can find. I do prefer a lead with a brass swivel snap. Now, why brass? Because, of course, it won't rust and it will not freeze. And take good care of your lead. Treat it with a leather product such as Neat's foot oil, and it should outlive your dog. The other piece of equipment that you'll need is a 12 to 15 foot long line, and that'll vary depending on the size of your dog and how quick of a handler that you are. This is simply nylon sash rope. I fastened a snap on here. You can fasten it together with metal bull clamps. Later on, you can hide them with some electrical tape, or you can also use a web lead. Make sure that is good and sturdy. The handle on this end. Finally, an important piece of equipment is the confinement cage. I do prefer this type of flight cage. This is fiberglass, easy to clean and maintain, simply because we want to confine the dog for at least 1 hour before we work the dog. The reason for that is so many times people tell us that the dog is so excited now that he doesn't want to do this or that or whatever. We're going to confine him for 1 hour, and when he comes out of there, he's going to be at his most excited level, and that's when we want to start training. Because if he'll work under those type of circumstances, then when things are normal and calm, the dog should be doing better than excellent. Now I'm going to show you how to easily put the dog's collar on and how to ensure that you have the proper size and fit. We'll again go to placing the collar on your left wrist. You check it for correction and release. The easiest way, your right hand comes in the front and you exchange wrists. Then you can simply hold the dog by the snout, dump it over the dog's head and neck, check that you have correction and release, and for the proper size you'll want the width of your hand only up against the dog's neck to the ring. No matter what size dog you have, that'll be your proper fit and will give you the right length for correction. Now I'm going to assume that you've confined your dog for 1 hour and you've got the proper size collar and you put it on correctly and you're ready to start work. First piece of equipment that you're going to use is your long line. Now this is how we're going to get the dog's attention, his undivided attention. Maybe that's why you had trouble training him before, but this will sure accomplish that. Now the way to hold the line is simply by taking the handle or the loop, slipping it over your right thumb. These two fingers close. These two here will gather your slack in loops like this. Now it's going to be real important that you get comfortable and smooth with this because you're going to have to be doing this as you're running and moving with the dog. Now while you're moving, there will be no verbal communication with the dog. Don't nag him, bug him, call his name, coax him, tell him to do this or that or whatever. Here's what's going to happen. Your objective. You want your dog at first walking within 4 or 5 feet of slack line next to you. Now it's very helpful sometimes to mark it with a piece of tape or a magic marker or something similar so you'll know where that distance is. Again, he can be slightly behind you, out to the side, or in front of you. It doesn't matter as long as this line is slack, and that is to say that the snap is hanging down. Be careful that it doesn't get tense. Hopefully, and probably, your dog is not going to cooperate. The moment he dares tense that 4 or 5 feet of slack line, here's what you're going to do. You'll drop all your slack. You'll tuck this in at your waistline, both hands. Make sure you don't get in the solar plex section. You're going to execute a right about turn and reverse direction. That is to go opposite of the direction the dog wants to go. And you'll do it with a snap, and you'll go quickly and run hard as fast as you can go in that direction. Here's where your gathering will come in. When the dog runs out of line, he might flip around once or twice. He's going to start traveling in your direction, and as you're running, you can gather your line this way. When he's again within that 4 or 5 feet of slack, you can resume walking. Now periodically, and you don't want to go too far, usually 60 to 100 feet, you'll want to stop, take a moment, praise the dog. Now you can verbally praise him. Again, no verbal while you're moving. Now here's what you're going to find. As you work your dog in the fashion that you just seen, he probably won't leave you. You're going to be saying, I dropped all my slack, I ran the other way, and I never got the dog to hit the end of the line. He quickly caught up to me. This will be the cue for you to go to shorter amount of line. So instead of your 4 or 5 feet, take a couple of feet And also what you're going to have to do is start using distractions. Again, this is when we have problems with our dogs, is when they're distracted. So you can use distractions like other dogs, balls, anything that you can find. The more, the better. And when your dog gets distracted and fails to remember what it's doing and dares tense at 2 feet of line, you again drop your slack, execute your right about turn, and go in the other direction. Now you're ready to start teaching the dog to heel. You're going to be using your 6-foot leather leash. We're going to hold it the very same way as we did the long line. The looper handle goes over your right thumb. These 2 fingers close down on it, and these 2 here will carry your slack. Your left hand only makes adjustments. If your dog was sitting at your side, this snap should definitely be hanging down. No more and no less. And this is carried at the belt line in your right hand. The left hand does not belong on the leash. The left hand will only help us make corrections and or adjustments very quickly removed from the lead. Now, assuming that you've practiced that, you're ready to start. First of all, the dog is going to be on your left side at all times while heeling. Now, some dogs may want to try to walk behind you, in front of you, or to your right. But if you've done your long line work properly, that will be down to a minimum. Some dogs occasionally want to jump on you. Usually they jump on your back, put their paws all over you. That can be corrected very quickly and smoothly by using the bottom of your foot, and you thump the dog in the chest. He'll quickly get off there. But basically he already knows where he should be, and that's within 2 feet of slack line. Now we're going to start tightening up on that. First we must have a starting point. Assuming you're all ready to go, the command will be heel. The dog is on your left. We always issue the dog's name before a command, so he knows it is he that we're talking to. So it's Buddy, heel. We're always going to step forward with the left foot. That's very important because eventually you'll do this silently. And later on in future lessons we'll be doing our stays by leaving the dog with the right foot. So we want to get a good foundation so he knows that quite well. Now, we're going to take advantage of every training aid that we can. The left foot is one. The command of heel is another. We're going to use a slap to the left side just as we're doing this, and that slap is going to move away from the left side and hit the leash. Therefore, the dog gets a slight little tug forward. Now, it's important that you practice this before you even try it with your dog, so you get the coordination involved. So as you're stepping forward, you're all adjusted, your leash is properly held, you're ready to go. It might look like this. Buddy, heel. So you got your slap into the lead, your left foot, and the verbal command. Now you're ready to start doing your turns. You remember the about turn. We're going to use it for the dog that forges slightly, that dares to go away from the left leg. Sometimes you'll drop your slack, charge in that direction. But simply for reversing, if the dog maintains that heel position, you can simply pivot and reverse your direction. Now let's talk for a moment where that heel position should be. The dog should be even to your left leg, and ideally 4 to 6 inches away from you. No more than that. Now for the dog that likes to heel out or slightly behind and out away from you, we're going to use the right turn. Now in the right turn, you're going to pivot on the right foot. Same foot as the turn. And what you'll do as you pivot, lock onto your leash. This is where, again, the left hand is a helper. Pivot in that direction. It's kind of important to get your body leaning forward so that the dog doesn't tip you over. On the left turn, this is for the dog that maybe likes to sniff and pay attention to the whole world, everything but you. You're going to pivot on your left foot, and this is one time when the left hand is allowed to go to the leash. And pull the dog into your knee as you make a square turn. And all those turns should be square. Never try to round them off. A direct pivot and a 90-degree turn. Now, if a dog does that, you walk along, simply pivot, and again the leash is free of the left hand. This is important. After a while of practicing your turns, the dog's actions will determine which turn that you should make. If he forges slightly, you make an about turn. If he lags slightly, you make a right turn. If he sniffs, looks about, or doesn't seem to be paying attention, you should make a left turn and catch him with your right knee. He'll soon learn that his actions created the correction of whichever turn, and he will start watching you more carefully. Don't issue any commands as you make turns. Only praise after the correction and only when the dog is in the proper heeling position. For example, you make a left turn, the dog gets the knee, he quickly comes into proper heeling position, promptly praise, verbally. As your turns become more polished, sooner or later you're going to have to stop. And now this is where the halt comes in. I always try to halt on the same foot. Your right hand is going to gather all the slack in your lead so that you're close to the snap. Your other foot comes together. You're going to pull straight up on the dog's collar as the left hand pushes and squeezes the rump down. Now that's important. I don't want you pushing like this because you can't control where the dog's rump will land. You want to place him in a perfectly straight position. And that should be the dog pointing this way, spinal alignment, and of course even to the left leg. Once you've placed the dog, good. I like to praise from underneath the chin so as to pull the dog up in a taller sitting position. Your praise here is very important. Place the dog in a straight sit no matter what it takes. Remember that the dog adjusts to the handler. The handler never adjusts himself to the dog. Now after a while you're going to get a dog that's pretty clever. And some dogs will lean on your leg, they'll step on your foot, they'll even step over your left foot. That's when you do the halt. It's only because they've become fully aware that this left foot is the one that steps forward first and they don't want to be caught off guard. So don't misinterpret it as an affection or whatever, and I'll show you a few ways to correct that. Chucky, heel. Bump them. Praise away from you instead of this way. If you praise this way, see what happens? They lean on you. Praise this way. If they get too close, bump. Now sometimes as you're heeling along, you'll have dogs that are notorious for crowding you. That is, they're right up against your leg all the time. I'm going to show you how to use the very same knee bump that we did when the dog was sitting, how to do it while you're in motion. Make sure that the knee bump is out there sharply and quickly. It should definitely be uncomfortable for the dog. Now there are times that you can keep snapping that knee out there, and that'll give him again one more reason to pay attention. Now I'm going to show you a correction for the dog that heels wide. He's always out here. He's not forging or lagging, but he's just wide. What you'll need to do is called the right side step. You have your leash at your waistline. Bring the left hand, lock onto it, and keep it there. This is a body correction. As you're doing it, the left foot will be forward, and what you do is shift your body to the right real quickly. That'll bring the dog right in fast. Anytime he's heeling wide, just use your right side step. A body correction, again, very important. Don't try to use your arms. Now, occasionally you get a clever dog that insists on forging. That is, he's always forward. He's not in the proper heel position. And no matter how hard you try with your left turns, you can't really catch this guy because he's quick or real clever, as I say. For that, I have a solution. Simply take your leash, pass it behind your back, regain a hold over here. Your arm can be pretty straight at your side. And what you're going to do as you're walking along, you're going to skip back with your left leg every time the dog forges. And he, in turn, will get a quick correction and will soon learn to pull back in. Now, I'll show you how that might look, because this guy's kind of notorious for that. Bare heel. This is a very helpful correction when you're out on a straight walk, such as going down the sidewalk, when you are unable to make any turns. Dogs can quickly figure this out, and that is usually when they start forging. You will surprise the dog when he finds out that you can give an effective correction even while walking straight ahead. Now, occasionally you get the real cautious dog. I call him cautious because he knows all these maneuvers you're going to do with all your turns might catch him, and he therefore starts lagging back. He's heeling, and you haven't been able to accomplish anything with a charging right turn or about turn, but he hangs back there. I'll show you a real quick correction to get that back in place. All you need to do is take your leash and drop it like this from your belt line, your normal leash hold, drop it to your side. As the dog lags, you're going to catch that leash quickly with your left leg. If he continues lagging, you can catch it every step, if need be. Every other step, according to what the dog does. If he lags, you snap it. If he pulls up in place and stays there for a little bit, you don't need to snap the leg, of course. He lags back again, thrust that leg out into the leash. Okay, now you've been stopping with your dog and always placing the dog sitting at your side. It's called a sitting heel position. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a command to that. And that command is simply going to be, buddy, heel. So always remember it's heel when you proceed and heel when you stop. Now the dog has been placed several times, so if you add the command heel and you place the dog simultaneously, the dog will adjust to that very quickly. As a matter of fact, most of them will at this point, the moment that you stop. After doing that for several sessions, you'll find again when you say heel and you've halted, you don't even have time to start to place the dog, and the dog is already sitting at your side. That will tell you that this dog knows that you're supposed to sit at attention when the handler halts. At that point, you're ready for the correction. What if you halt and you tell the dog heel simultaneously and the dog does not sit at attention? You then get both hands down on the leash like this, bend at the legs, and you're going to rip up real quickly. No added command is necessary. You already told the dog to heel when you halted. Now I'm going to show you the left about turn. We're going to turn in reverse direction and about. we're going to turn left. Of course, the dog is at your left. So what you'll have to do, the right foot will be forward at the time. You'll have to pass the lead behind your back, grasp it with the left hand, and proceed this way. Now I'll show you another angle of that. The dog is on your left, remember, the right foot is forward, pass the leash behind the back, the left hand grabs it here, brings it out back in front to the right hand, and again proceed in a normal position. The reason for this turn is sometimes you won't always want to reverse direction by turning to your right. Also, it'll give your dog another lesson in maneuvering, and it'll be very, very important for a future exercise that we're going to do. So I want you to start practicing this, and practice it, of course, without your dog until you can get the coordination involved. It's very important that you do this turn quickly and smoothly. You must be very quick and smooth with this, otherwise most dogs will get confused and sit when you stop to start into the turn. Some will wrap around you if they can. Quick, smooth reversal of direction is the key to success without any problems on this exercise. Now this next exercise is called a figure eight. What you'll need is two objects spaced 6 to 8 feet apart. You can use garbage cans, chairs, or what have you. And you're basically going to heel around these two objects in a figure eight. Now this will teach your dog to handle real tight, maneuvering around objects, and especially practical for street work. You'll have an opportunity to correct the dog in the left turn as you wrap around, and also to correct the dog in the right turn. Now it's a very wise idea to incorporate halts anywhere and everywhere along this figure eight. Now I'll do this with a dog and you'll see some of the maneuvering involved. Bow, heel. If he lags, use your correction. Good boy. Good. Okay, now if you've accomplished everything so far, you're ready for your next step, which is called your automatic sit. That is to say that the dog will sit automatically at heel when you halt, without any type of cue or command. If he doesn't, and believe me, he's ready for it, you'll simply reach down, bend, and give the ripping correction straight up. Make sure it's straight up and not into you, because then you'll create your own crooked sit. We want it nice and straight. Straight up. You might have to tilt your body a little bit to the side to accomplish that. Now I want to show you how to correct crooked sits that possibly and probably will happen to you at different times. That is, when the dog is sitting proper, he's even with your left leg, but his butt is outward. Or sometimes the dog's rump may be slightly behind you. If the butt is outward, then what you have to do is be very quick when you halt. I'll do this slowly so you can catch it. You're coming to a halt, and what you're going to do immediately as you're doing that is send a swinging hand down in a chop, guillotine action, and that hand should come down in such a fashion that if the dog were sitting straight, you'd miss him altogether. If his rump is outward, that's why you're probably using it, then what will happen, that hand will glance off his rump and tuck him in straight. Now, very important that you do this before the dog's rump actually hits the ground. If you don't, you'll have to pull him in, and that can be very strenuous on your back. You want to do this before the rump hits the ground. That's why you must be very quick. Now, occasionally some dogs, as I say, will sit behind you slightly. That is, their spine is pointing this way instead of straight in the direction you're traveling in. Some people might correct that by using their foot to nudge them over. The trouble with that is it can go on forever sometimes, and other times it'll create the opposite situation. So you've halted, the dog's rump is behind you, you use your heel, and now it's out away from you. So don't use that. Here's the method that I prefer. You've come to a halt, and you just realize that the dog's rump is behind you. Take all the slack that you have in your leash, grasp it both hands, lock it onto your left hip, and what you'll do is cock your hip a little bit like this, and then throw your hip right out. This usually hops the dog in a straight sit. Now be careful not to shoot your arms out away from you, because then you'll shoot the dog too far ahead. Keep them right on your hip. Again, a toss, real quick. Your feet don't move. All right, now I'm going to show you how to teach your dog to stay. For now, we're going to start from the sitting heel position. Dog is sitting at your side. We're going to, again, make use of every training aid that we can. First of all, we're going to have the verbal command of stay. We're going to step off and leave the dog with the right foot. This is when we start using the right foot. We're also going to use a right hand signal. So we'll have all those aids. Now, here's what you do. The dog is sitting at heel. You're going to call his name. You'll transfer the leash from your right hand to your left hand. You'll step off on the right foot, simultaneously issuing the dog's command of stay. As you come out with a right hand signal directly in front of the dog's snout. Now you're going to have tension on the lead so as to keep him sitting as tall as possible, because we know that a dog is at his tallest when sitting, and we want to keep it that way for now. So here's what it might look like all put together. Buddy, stay. Now you're directly in front of the dog so he can't really move forward, and you've got this tension on the lead, and for now simply return by reversing your action. Slack, finish off with a heeling step, praise the dog. What we'll do is we will gradually decrease the tension on the lead as the dog experiences this several times. We will gradually increase the span of time that we spend standing in front of them. And also, again, as he's making more progress, as the lessons go on, we will gradually increase the distance that we are in front of them, returning by reversing our steps for now. Eventually, as he gets pretty good and you have no tension on your lead and you're able to stand out in front of him for 20 seconds or more, you can start returning to the dog by circling him counterclockwise. So again, the dog is in a sitting stay position. You've been able to gradually increase your distance. You now start returning to him. Advantageous to again regain your tension as you circle him. Stand at heel, quick hand of praise, finish off with a heeling step, really praise the dog. Don't try to rush through this, because it would be a shame to have to correct the dog if you didn't take the right amount of build-up time. And again, this will vary with the individual dog. But always try to succeed before you expand on. That way it'll save you some needless corrections. Now the question comes to mind, what happens if the dog moves? Okay, he could stand up, he could lay down, or he could walk away. In the event that the dog were to stand or lie down, then the correction would be one part. All you would do is rush in quickly Get both your hands close to the snap and pop the dog right back into a sitting position. Do not repeat your command. If you do, it'll lead to a dog that doesn't stay at all. Now, if the dog were to get up and walk away, then your correction would become a two-part correction. Number one, give the dog an uncomfortable trip back to where you left him. Number two, again, your normal sit correction to snap him into the sitting position. And immediately return to where you were when the dog broke it. Again, very important, do not repeat your command. Now I'm going to show you how to teach your dog the down. First, you're going to start on your left knee. Your dog has been sitting at heel. You can sit back on your foot slightly. You're going to get your left hand actually on the dog's collar, right against his neck. You can discard the leash out of your way for now. What you're going to do is reach behind the dog's two front legs, grab his outer leg, and slowly place the dog in the down position. Your forearm should be right along the dog's spine so that if he wants to get up or move or whatever, you can apply whatever pressure is necessary, yet no more than necessary, to keep him down there. You're going to use the command, buddy, down. The dog's name in the down command in a lower, calm tone. We don't want to excite the dog on this particular command. Now, to finish off from here, even if you can't get your normal leash hold, don't worry about it. You're going to step off quickly right from this position with a forward finishing step, such as buddy heel. Then you're praised. A lot of dogs will roll over on their sides when you do this, and that's okay for now. Just be ready with the forearm if he should try to get up. Don't let him get up until you step off with a heel command. Now let's say that your dog is doing real well. You give him the down command. He does it almost every time. Now he knows he's supposed to go down, and he doesn't. Here's another correction that you can do from your heel position. And it resembles very much the way we placed them at first. All you need to do is slide your left hand down the lead, only it will happen very quickly, and you are going to go down on one knee, and you should not hang on to the lead or collar, because most of the time your hand will actually slide onto the dog's collar, and should, and just simply slap the ground. Now, again, it must be done quickly. You've told him down, he ignored you. Simply go down quickly. And again, get back up into your stand. And be careful not to thump your knee if you're working on hard pavement. Now, once the dog gets pretty good at his down, and he does it almost every command, you're ready to start incorporating the down stay. The dog is down, and you will leave the dog in exactly the same fashion as we did when the dog was sit-staying. That is to say, we'll step off with the right foot, the right hand signal, and the command of stay. So now you've left. If the dog were to get up or walk away, I'll do this slowly so you can catch it. You would give him an uncomfortable trip back. That would be the two-part. Your down correction would be this close, and you'd want to do it slightly sideways so that you can dump the dog. Otherwise, the dog will stiffen up, lock his elbows, and you won't be able to place him down. Now, if he simply sits or stands, then all you need to do is rush in, get your correction, and go right through your legs. Make sure you're squatted quite comfortably to do this, And speed and snap is very important. After you make your correction and you return back to your position, remain there long enough to see if the dog is going to try to break. Always try to finish this with the dog succeeding in holding a stay. As the dog improves, you'll be wanting to use distractions to see if he'll break. Again, a reminder of his responsibility to stay. Now, as your dog is getting much better on his down command, you'll be wanting, of course, to give him a down from other positions. I'll show you the best way to start that, and we'll also start incorporating a hand signal, which is a trading aid, and of course can be used later on in more advanced work. So first of all, you'd leave your dog in the sit-stay position. You proceed out to the end of the lead. Now you give your dog's name, the command of down, and you'll come around with a big signal like this as you step forward with the right foot. And then what you'll want to do is get in very close on the dog's collar as you give him a slight snap downward. Praise him on the head quickly, move back out to where you were. Eventually what will happen as you make progress with this, you'll say, buddy, down, and you won't even have to get to the leash. And what you'll do is you'll back away gradually, again with progress, until eventually you can simply say down with a hand signal, which of course later on the verbal can be faded out and you have strictly a hand signal, or the use of both. The down in motion will help speed up your down if the dog is too slow. Now this is very similar to the correction that we used when we were standing at heel with the dog. The left hand is on the collar and the right foot is forward at the time, which makes it a down stay. This will really sharpen up a dog that is slow and sluggish about going down. Again, this is a situation of where the quicker you are with your correction, the quicker the dog will become in responding to his down command. Now we're ready to teach the dog to sit. We're going to use the command of sit. High pitch is preferable. Of course, the dog's name before the command. We're going to start from the down position, simply because this is the most difficult. And if the dog will sit from the down, then he'll sit from any position. The dog is down. We're going to leave the dog in a down stay, proceed out to the end of the leash. The left hand can maintain the leash taut for a moment. We're going to step into the dog with the right foot as the right hand comes up with a hefty slap and slaps the leash, which snaps so as to pop him into a sitting position. Quickly praise, again step back. And you can finish by returning to the dog counterclockwise, circle. Now what's going to happen is eventually you'll be able to just reach in and slap the leash slightly. The dog thinks he's going to get the correction. He'll come up into the sitting position, praise. And we'll fade it out until such time that we no longer have to slap the leash. The dog will be responding to simply stepping in with the right foot and the right hand signal along with the verbal command of sit. We'll gradually fade out the right step. Now we have a good foundation for the right hand signal. We can use them simultaneously, sit, and the basis will be there for your eventual hand signal later on. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is the recall. This is the part where we call the dog and he comes to us. Some of you might have had a difficult time with that. First off, we're going to start with the dog in the sit-stay position. We've left him, and we're now out to the end of the lead. We're going to call his name, the command of come, and it should sound pleasant. Never say come harshly, because any dog will hesitate. Come is always pleasant. We're going to reach out with the right hand. We're getting a foundation again for a hand signal and also a training aid. And as we do, we're going to snap the leash to get the dog moving initially. You'll have to gather the lead quickly. He gets a sit command when he comes in front of you. And he should be sitting straight in front. Don't allow him to sit with his rump outward in either direction. And stop the dog relatively early. Don't allow him to get his nose right on your legs. Not at this point, because he'll eventually inch himself into a crooked sit. So again, we have our hand signal, the verbal command of come. The dog comes and sits in front. That's when he gets his praise. And take a moment and allow him to do that. You can return to the dog by circling counterclockwise and finish off in this fashion for now. Now we're going to learn the finish. We've done the recall. The dog is now sitting in front of us. In the finish part, he's required to leave this sitting position, circle around your right, over to your left, and sit at heel. Now this can be difficult if you don't do it properly. Also, it will have been very helpful if you have practiced a lot of left about turns. The dog is now sitting in front of us. The first thing you're going to do is rise up on your right toe. Don't move your foot, just simply rise up on the toe. Then you'll gather all the slack that you have in your lead. And I want you to put it behind your right leg, midway between your knee and your belt line. It also helps sometimes to gather this leash out of your way. Hang on to it with your left hand so that you don't catch your heel in it, as sometimes can happen. It also gives you a much better grip. Now what's going to happen is you give the dog the command of heel. So it's buddy heel. Simultaneously, what you'll do is give a very hard and quick leg thrust straight back. Make sure that it's straight back. This should jerk the dog out of his position somewhere over to here. You pass the lead behind your back quickly, step back where you were. The dog comes up to heel, quick praise, finish off with a heeling step. Now here are some of the mistakes that people do with this. And it's important, again, you should practice it without your dog till you get the hang of it. Some people use a leg thrust like this. Hopefully you've got a small dog. You become top heavy and you don't have any power in your leg, and all you're going to do is pull the dog right up against you. It's not enough of a thrust to get him behind you. Other people try to do it with an outward leg. This will get you nowhere. So practice until you know that it's hard and snappy and straight back. It must physically move the dog from that position to behind you. Eventually, the right step back fades out altogether. But be ready to go back to the leg thrust should the dog hesitate. As you've gradually been able to fade out the right step back, all you need to do is pass the leash behind your back as you give the dog the command of heel, and he should finish quite nicely. Now you're ready for another piece of equipment. It's called a correction handle. All you need is a very similar piece of rope that you made your 12 to 15 foot long line with, you can fasten it together with a metal clamp, as I showed you earlier, cover it with tape, or you can simply tie it in a knot. Now the way to put it on, put it through the ring, the same ring, the live ring that your lead gets hooked onto, fasten it on there tightly. And for now, all I want you to do is have that on your dog's training collar all the time. We want the dog to get used to it as it hits him in the chest and the upper part of the leg. Now this is going to become a very important tool here for a future lesson, but we want him, again, to have a good association with this so that he doesn't feel that it's a strange piece of equipment. Later on, this correction handle, when we're working for our off-leash control, will become just that, a nice handle for correction. Now I'm going to show you how to teach your dog to stand. Some very important English here, so watch carefully. Of course, we're going to use the command of stand as well as the dog's name. What we'll do, pivot towards the dog, get your foot behind his front feet. This will be difficult if you have a little dog, but you can do it just a bit later. Get your right hand on the dog's collar, right against his neck. And what we'll do with it, as we issue the command of stand, we'll pull forward with the right hand as we pull up with the left hand. Now the dog is trapped between my left hand and my left knee. He can't turn around and try to nip my left hand because I'm that close to his throat. It's a very safe position in teaching. Now the dog must never do anything other than walk away with you from the stand. He never sits, he never lies down. So we leave in this fashion, bow heel. Good. Now when you're ready to incorporate the stand, stay. Of course, you must leave the dog and return to the dog. Returning is usually when we run into a problem. So I'll show you a little trick that's very helpful, and it's quite associated with the tickle of the dog's hair between his shoulders. Bow, stand. The right hand signal, bow, stay. Counterclockwise return. That one finger can prevent a lot of failures. Bow, heel. Good. Eventually, you can fade out that finger to the point where it's not really touching the dog and gradually fade it right out of the picture. Then you'll be able to do your counterclockwise return without the dog moving. This will be important for a stand for examination. Now I'm going to show you the stand in motion. This is very helpful with some dogs that we have quite a difficult time in propping and popping them into the stand. And it'll work on about 80% of the dogs. Here's what you'll do. You'll be heeling along with your dog. You'll transfer the leash from the right hand to the left. And as you're walking, you're going to give the dog a stand command, flash out with that hand signal, and you'll time it so that your right foot is forward at the time. Now generally, here's what happens. A dog is slightly confused. He recognizes the signal of stay and the right foot, yet he didn't hear anything else. He's somewhat familiar with the stand. He may take a step or two and stand there in confusion. As long as you continue moving, keep the hand signal out there briefly, then you can return to the dog. You can succeed very quickly in a stand in motion, which again will come in handy for advanced work, plus you're incorporating a good foundation for a hand signal on your stand command. Okay, the next piece of equipment that you're going to need is called a throw chain. Now you can make it out of a piece of chain. Just simply cut it, fasten it back together with a pair of pliers. I also like to tie a bright colored piece of string or yarn on the throw chain so that you can retrieve them easier when you're using them out in the grass. You can also use a training collar if you don't have chain available. And all you need to do is fasten it together with your piece of string or yarn, something brighter than grass, and usually the same size that fits on your dog will be the appropriate weight. Now I like to carry my throw chains here at my belt line. You're going to need at least a couple of them, and this is so that I can get at them quickly. It's much faster than reaching in your pocket and your hand gets stuck and you can't make the timely correction. So I've found that here on your throwing hand side is the best place to carry them. These are going to be a very important tool when we first start our off-leash control of the dog. So I'm going to show you a formal fashion to set up the dog so that we can instill a very important thing for him to remember in his mind. Here's what you do. You give your dog an okay, as you normally do, probably between every exercise. Let him sniff and whatever, let him be a dog. And when he seems the most occupied with something, I want you to whisper his name. And I do mean whisper. No louder than what's necessary for the dog to hear you. Everybody is very aware that a dog's hearing is much more acute than ours. So if a human would hear your whisper, the dog darn sure will. Now again, he's now most occupied with whatever the distraction is, the sniffing or what have you. You whisper his name. If the dog does not respond immediately, you're going to remove your throw chain, throw it out, strike him in the butt, rip on that lead, and the dog comes to a recall position. Praise. A lot of praise this time, more so than the average. Let him know he's real good. Finish. Finish off with a heeling step. Saunter around again and try to set him up. This is where your distractions are going to be increasingly important. The more, the better. Now, I want to tell you some rules about the throw chain that are important. Number one, the dog must never see you throw it. Number two, you must never miss, hopefully. Therefore, it helps to practice when the dog is not around till you can get pretty accurate. Remember, the dog is not far away, only on a 6-foot leash. And the most important one, the dog must never see you pick it up. It's real important. Now, at this stage, your throw chain should be with you at all times. Very important. Don't forget them or don't bury them in your pocket, because your opportunities to use this are going to diminish greatly every time you do. So there'll come times where you'll be able to say, gee, I wasn't able to use the throw chain at all today, but still have them with you. Now we're ready to start with our off-leash control. The first thing that you'll need is a piece of lightweight line. Now this happens to be Venetian blind cord. You can use anything that has a similar size and strength. What we're going to do with this, we're going to tie it onto the dog's correction handle. And we're going to practice our heeling like we did before until such a time that the dog ignores the line. Now this may take a little bit as he has it rubbing against his legs and in between his legs and as he steps on it and all this kind of stuff. But your intention is to make him heel properly with some precision, regardless, until, again, he ignores the line and he heels just as well dragging that line as he did without it. And of course you still have your normal leash hold. Now what you'll need to do is spread your line out in your work area such as I've done here before the dog of course is around. Drill the dog for a few moments before in heeling, and then what you should do is arrive at the end of that line so that you're standing on it with your left foot with approximately a foot or more line hanging out the front of your foot, and that is simply so that the dog is not sitting on it, because we want to tie this onto the dog as quickly as possible, and hopefully the dog is unaware that anything new is happening. So all you would do at that point is simply bend down, grab the line, and tie it onto the dog's correction handle. You must be quick and smooth in tying the line on. Also make sure that you tie a knot that will not slip off or come apart. I prefer the bowling knot for quickness of on and off. The dog might feel strange about this, but be sure to praise the dog when he is in the proper heel position and correct accordingly when he is not. Again, as I've pointed out, different dogs will react differently to this line because it does bother some of them greatly as it drags between their legs and as they step on it and so forth. No matter what it takes, you should continue on until the dog is so used to it that he is ready to ignore the line. Now you're going to need a method of converting from the leash and the line to the off leash. I find that a good intermediate step is simply draping the leash over your neck. Keep the loop or handle in your thumb. We want to be able to demonstrate to the dog that we have nothing in our hand. So swinging that left hand is kind of important. Now you'll see that I can still get a fairly good body correction as long as this is locked on. And it should be on your bare skin. Assuming your dog is doing great till now, you're ready to remove the leash. Have your throw chain handy. Should that dog dare walk away from you, you just swing out the throw chain and catch him. From association, he learns that every time he gets struck in the rump with the throw chain, that he returns to the handler quickly. Lagging at this point can be the major problem. This is where your correction handle comes in. If the dog lags, reach back, rip him into a good heel position with the correction handle. Of course, don't forget to praise him when he's in the proper position. When you're confident with the dog's performance, you're ready to start shortening the line. The line should be shortened gradually until you're working with about a dog length of line. Remember, the dog doesn't know how long the line is. Again, should he fail to heel properly, be ready to grab the correction handle and snap him into the heel position. Verbal communication at this point can be your greatest helper. Eventually the dog will think that this line is 2 miles long. Now you're going to start using your light line for other things as well. The recall typically is one that people say they have a hard time with because the moment they remove the leash, the dog thinks that it cannot be snapped and reeled in. For that type of guy, I simply do this. Wrap your light line around a couple of fingers a few times, put it behind your back, stand on the light line, making sure that it's taut. And then as you call the dog, if he doesn't move instantly, you can simply snap your leg. It'll give the line a jerk, initiate the dog into motion, and the dog wonders, wow, how did you reach me from there? Now you shouldn't start out exactly 50 feet away at first. You went from your 6-foot leash, you can go to your 12 or 15-foot line, and then maybe start on this about 20 feet away and gradually work your way to 50 feet. You'll notice a look of surprise in a lot of dogs as they try to figure out how you were able to correct them from such a distance. Praise is very vital here to succeeding with good, quick recalls. And the more you do it, the more proficient the dog will become at it. I'm going to show you some of the obedience ring exercises. Now, if you want to go into obedience competition, you'll be required to do these exercises. If you don't, of course, it's still a good drill to practice with your dog so that you can polish all the points, because it incorporates really everything you've learned today. Now, for those of you that do want to go into obedience ring, I do suggest that you contact one of your local obedience clubs or dog clubs, and you can find out when the different obedience trials are. And I definitely encourage this so that you can go out and at least prove to yourself how far that you've come with your dog. This is a typical heeling pattern in the obedience ring. Forward, halt. Forward, right turn, right turn, fast pace, normal, about turn, slow pace, normal, left turn, left turn, about turn, and halt. In the obedience ring, a judge would be calling every step, so it's very helpful to have somebody talk you through these, such as forward, halt, forward,